there is a coffin drop to Guevara on the floor, and as the tables are pulled out, one of the legs is broken, and you have like Taz on commentary stating, I don't think that table's gonna go. That's not good. And I'm like, oh my God. And Darby's just like, whatever, just use it. So they set up these two tables. We're hoping this table is going to stay up, and a ladder is set up in the ring. There was a fair distance from the ladder in this ring to it's not like the tables were right there on the floor. They were out where like the commentator's desk is usually stationed. Like, I was looking at this, I'm like, that's a fair jump for Darby to make, not knowing what was about to come. So Darby climbs up the ladder, and then Sting climbs up the opposite side. And I'm thinking, like, I do way too much thinking on these shows. I'm thinking this is going to be a visual where Darby is going to leap over Sting onto the tables, and it's Sting being able to hold down the ladder without Twitter going crazy for the referee holding the ladder. They have outthought the spot.
Wow. Yes.
Stupid me. Sting then tells Darby, I got this. And Darby starts stepping down. I'm like, oh my fucking God, what is this guy going to do? And Sting turns around, and dude, he leaps off this ladder, and his mouth breaks Guevara and his fall. As he makes it barely to this first table, it breaks. Like, it is like you passed the test by the slimmest of margins. You got by, but his mouth looked like it got just totally busted open. God knows if he lost a tooth or multiples, but he's coming up and his mouth is bloody. And dude, he had I'm too old for this shit look the rest of this match. I just could not fathom this guy thinking of this and anyone saying, yeah, man, do it. I'm legit getting concerned watching this guy. Like, could you fathom what a retirement match of Sting's would look like in 2023, knowing I don't have to save myself for tomorrow?
This was like a step far beyond, I think, what I've anticipated about Sting in this like incarnation. I've seen him do the balcony dives. I've seen him like do other things that, you know, you might consider risky, but usually he's jumping onto a pile of people. This was like a stationary object that was far away. This would have been a risky spot for anybody on the roster, much less a 64-year-old. So,
like, they did not make it easier for him. Like, they could have moved Sammy in. Like, the distance didn't need to be there. Like, they purposely made this like a 10 on the scale of danger rather than a 7.
They might have just, you know, like underestimated or overestimated how far Sting would be able to jump. Perhaps.
How? He's 64. How can
Dude,
you
I don't know.
Overestimate what this guy's capable of jumping at 64?
I would ask how for pretty much, you know, anything involving Sting at this point. I saw it, and like Sting, it like kind of lands like onto Sammy's knee. Like the look on his face was about as glassy as like you could see. And I'm just asking, why? Like, why? You don't need to do this at this stage, Sting. And is it really gaining that much more? Like, did he not listen to Bryan Danielson's answer to your question at the press conference?
No,
do you think he cleared this? Do you think he cleared this with the medical staff?
I would love to have seen that scene of Sting going up to the medical team and pitching this idea and asking their thoughts on it.
Yeah, this is a man who had spinal stenosis. You know,
this is a guy, like, go watch that match on Sunday. Like, he had 2 scary experiences. Like, yes, there was like the cutter spot that Guevara does, and it was like nasty. And then like where he's on the table, like the table was almost more concerning. It was as though like he was supposed to roll out of the way, and it was like
he was too slow.
Like, I don't even know. Like, was he fully aware to like? It was way too late that you even saw him move at that point.
Well, I mean, could it be, those not less than maybe, clean spots that made him want to redeem himself by doing something extra risky?
That's a pretty scary game to be playing at 64.
That is the biggest
scary
concern.
game at 44. Yeah. And it's
agreed. It's the one-upsmanship that, is probably maybe the most concerning part if we have to pick something to be extra concerned about. Because what's he going to do to top this? What's the next high that he's going to chase? And does Sting still continue to need to do this. I'm all for Sting jumping off the high shit, but like I feel like the landing has to be like so pre-planned and so safe that the margin of error is incredibly low. And this was not that type of spot.
Not at all. It's again like for all this will be said, like this was it was a tag match on TV, and sadly, this is not going to be remembered. Well, maybe it will. Maybe for some, they will always remember the night Sting dove. But again, it's you see these spots, they do come and go at a pretty big clip, and a lot of this stuff it doesn't get remembered, but you are certainly going to feel the toll of it on yourself. And I watched this, and what are we? What is this guy expecting of himself, and how like all the signs are just there that you do not want to see this guy take the spot he does not get up from or does irreparable damage to himself. And I don't think it's alarmist to have that thought. I would much rather be called an alarmist before something happens rather than we're looking back and saying, man, where were the warning signs here when and having that proper protocol that like these guys are going to think crazy, and they do need to have.
Is this our role though, John? You know, like these are like this man is a senior citizen almost a year away, and if he wants to do it, then hey, man, like he has nobody to blame but himself if something goes wrong, right?
You can have that thought, but I feel that there are
we can speak about our level of comfort watching something that might be a little too risky for an audience member. So it goes back to your Tiger Driver 91 debate, right? You know, you can go nuts certainly, but does the audience will it turn somebody watching off from enjoying what they're watching?
Not when they're landing it. But if you were to see a tragic incident involving a wrestler, yeah, I think that would turn people off of the product.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, is it worth the risk to
AEW? But I think it would be a pretty low note for the industry if you had an example of something like that occurring. And I'm watching, and this is not specific to just AEW, but it is you just watch the quotient so high that it's. Like the idea that one night we're going to be here and reacting to something horrific does not sound crazy to me. Like we are watching stuff that it's just, it's a miracle at times that we're not.
Usually this type of argument is reserved for like, you know, the 20-something-year-old that like a Darby Allin, you know, who can take crazy risks because that's how what they need to do to get noticed. I don't know if we've ever made this sort of argument for a 64-year-old to tone it down because, you know, it's better to work smart than to take unnecessary risks. But you're right. Like, is this level of risk worth it for AEW compared to the potential disaster that could occur?
And listen, I understand both sides. It's like I understand the need to listen, had Sting come in here and just worked a safe style, like he would have gone out of fashion pretty quickly. Like he could get by with the name and shortcuts here and there, but this has been a defining part of this renaissance for this.
He's trying to be PCO.
In many ways, he is trying to replicate that, and it's working. And he's a huge part of the AEW presentation. And you have all of these guys that are trying to stand out in as big a way as possible. And I get it. I couldn't fathom the pressure that Omega and Ospreay had going into that match on Sunday, that they had to exceed what some would call one of the greatest matches they had ever seen. And we have to top that. It's like, that is an enormous level. And you are, in some ways, you can say it is admirable when they could get by doing a 10% of what they're doing. Like they're both coming up with contracts soon, and look what they're risking themselves with.
So have you had this type of reaction to prior Sting dives or Sting like risky spots?
I think it is something that we have watched, like the degree of Sting stunts, of certainly having that level of concern.
Sting stunts,
the Sting stunts. But I mean, to me, there's a gulf between a dive off a balcony where you have three guys catching you, that it looks spectacular, but if you have the trust in people, like that should not be a life-threatening stunt. And it looks great, and it generates a great pop.
Yeah.
Versus, what I saw on Sunday and just coming back so quickly. And I think all of this combined together, it is like, if, as you're surmising, like feeling like I need to redeem myself from Sunday. And this is like, that's a pretty dangerous game to be playing. If that's his mindset of things of, I had a rough night on Sunday, so I'm going to overdo it on Wednesday. And you're just like, there is no winner in that kind of a game.
That's just us, playing the guessing game. We don't know if this was planned months in advance, maybe, but I feel like this was definitely like on the line of like what I'm comfortable with watching a 64-year-old do for my entertainment. So prior Sting dives have, I think, been perfectly acceptable and perfectly fine and perfectly entertaining. This just could have gone wrong. It made for a hell of a return at the end of this match, though.